Welcome to episode 124 of the Binge Boys podcast, presented by Binge Media. That's right. It happened. Listen to last night's episode of the Binge Boys. We explained that a umbrella has been officially created to be the home for several different shows. They will all have a nice and pretty hub on the interwebs soon. Stay tuned for that. But regardless, this is Binging Batch. It's Kaleigh and Logan. It's the Kaleigh and Logan show. We're here. We're ready to slay. We got a lot to get into. We're going to drop that theme music so we can start talking about last night's greatest of all time. Word. We got it. We got another episode of The Bachelor's greatest of all time seasons. And last night we got yes, we did. We got the Kaitlyn season. Shirtless dude.
My little brother.
We also got before we even talk about this episode, we can't not quickly touch on the fact that we got our new Bachelor.
Yes, we
Matt
did.
James.
Yes, which is Tyler from Hannah B's season. He was the runner-up. It's his roommate. So this guy has never actually been on the show. He's only knows about it from his roommate, which him and Tyler have a few businesses together and stuff. So they're very, very close. So super cool. It's interesting to watch. It's interesting to be able to watch someone that's never went through what it's like being on the other end of it.
Yeah.
The leader of the show. So
yeah, I'm excited to see. And he's a good-looking dude. And I think ABC took the right steps after people demanded, there be some kind of change. And boom, we got Matt James.
Right. There was when all of COVID hit, there was a group called the Quarantine Crew that you could follow. I think they got pretty TikTok famous, but they were also on Instagram. And it was like Tyler's brother. It was our new Bachelor. It was Hannah B and maybe two other female influencers, stuff like that. And they all were stuck together in, I think, Jupiter, Florida, which stuck together. They had a beautiful house near a lake or near the ocean or something. So I've kind of seen him a lot more recently, and he seems like a really good, fun guy. So I'm really excited to watch that season.
Yeah, I agree. He seems like he's a cool dude. So I'm excited to see what comes of it from somebody who only knows The Bachelor from secondhand stories from his roomie.
Right.
So it's exciting to see somebody who hasn't been in on it yet.
Right. I'm also curious, are they going to release his season before they release Claire Crawley's season? Because the way that it was kind of sounding last night was that Claire was going to be the Bachelorette, but during the time of the Bachelorette, because they have the Bachelor is this time of the year, the Bachelorette is this time of the year. So I don't know if they're going to try to push Claire into next year.
I don't know. I kind of hope that they let her time shine first. I mean,
I agree.
But I mean, I don't know. I mean, they've got to film it still. So with COVID, I don't know how ABC is looking at. I know a lot of states, including Georgia, are pretty much just trying to get back to normal at this point. So I think we're going to start seeing stuff start to film again. So we'll see if they film The Bachelor. I know The Bachelor is famous for, being exotic and cool locations and shit. So we'll see how that works out with travel restrictions and all that. But regardless, yeah, I'm curious to see whose season we get first. I hope it's Claire's.
I agree. A lot of between last night's episode and last week's episode where Chris Harrison is asking like some of the past contestants and stuff like that, their thoughts on Claire and their advice. Like everybody has really good words about Claire. So
yeah, it seems like there's not a negative thing said about this girl.
Yes. But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into Kristen's season of The Bachelorette. Kristen is probably my most favorite Bachelorette that there ever was. She is so cute.
Yes, I agree. She, I could just tell that after watching like 30 minutes of this recap, I was like, damn, I wish I would have watched this live.
Right.
This was like the season to watch live.
Yes. And she handled a lot of it very well.
Yeah.
So to kind of begin with the recap of what was shown last night, I didn't watch this season either. This is before I kind of got into the Bachelor Nation whole thing. But it was interesting that I think the girl's name was Haley, maybe. I can't remember. There was two girls. No, Britt. It was Britt and Kaitlyn. And they came together and then they met all the guys. And was like, okay, here's all 30 of your boys. But they're going to vote on which one of you two is going to actually be the Bachelorette. Which is
how weird.
Because there could have there wasn't really any reveal, I'm sure. There was probably we have these two girls and we just can't decide. That's probably one of Chris Harrison's little things of, you don't know what's going to happen next. He loves to throw out on everybody. But and it was cute because the guys, they kind of got to hand out a rose in their own way because they would drop a rose into the voter box of the girl that they wanted.
I thought that was kind of cool.
It was cool. So they ended up voting for Kaitlyn. It was kind of sad because Chris Harrison pulled Brittany aside and was like, so there was definitely the guys want one girl here based on the votes. It was pretty unanimous, I guess, or a high majority towards one girl.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's not going to be you. I was like, oh, wow. I don't know why you needed to lead it off with
Chris Harrison is the best. Chris Harrison is the absolute best at just building up the fact that, oh my God, you're about to win, and then boom, shooting you down. Because he's doing the TV thing, not even I know what's gonna happen. And it crushes her because the way he worded it, he was like, obviously the guys want one girl. And Brie. I'm sorry to say it wasn't you.
Yeah.
And it's
then right at the very end.
Why you got to do that to her, Chris? But yeah, I thought that was kind of a cool concept, a little extra flavor that they brought two girls in and said, all right, guys, get to know these two girls over the course of the night. And at the end of the night, before you go to bed or whatever, cast your vote on whichever girl you think should be the Bachelorette. And it's pretty cool. I wouldn't mind seeing that again. Yeah,
that was very cool. I remember thinking straight off the bat, it was really kind of, I didn't really recognize Kaitlyn for a second because I follow Kaitlyn on social media, but she has blonde hair. And in the show, she's a brunette. And honestly, in my opinion, she looks so much better as a brunette. I kind of wish she would just go back. But I don't know how familiar you are with the Bachelor Nation, but there was a lot of famous people from Bachelor Nation in her season. I did not realize how many key players in Bachelor Nation were there. She had Jared, which Jared's now married to Ashley I. Ashley I was a big, big person throughout Bachelor Nation. She's known as being kind of the crier. And she has her own podcast that's pretty famous. There's Ben Higgins, who actually is from Indiana University. So I think he was an IU grad or somewhere from the area, but I have some friends from Purdue that actually know Ben Higgins because he's from the Indiana area, which is kind of weird, and so on and so forth. There was a lot of other big characters, and now you kind of knowing where they are now, it's so weird to go back and look at where they were, seeing Jared kissing Kaitlyn and not kissing Ashley I. It's super super bizarre.
Yeah, they I could tell that there were a lot of heavy hitters just by the sheer amount of like FaceTimes or whatever they did with cast members. I was like, wow, like there's a lot of power players on this season. So this was a pretty crucial season, it seems like, to like the Bachelor lore.
Right. Yeah, I think that's also where maybe around the time that it really started picking up a lot of its attention, I guess. Because I guess at one point there's a date where the guys have to go to a comedy club. And so they get paired up with Amy Schumer to work on some jokes. And she is like amazing. So it's like crazy to see like some other famous people that made their way in and out. Like, in my opinion, watching like Listen to Your Heart, like, yes, there was lots of famous names that were on Listen to Your Heart, but then you got like Amy Schumer. Just like, chilling, and it's like, it's Amy Schumer though. Like, oh my God. I love her. But yes, but there was the comedy date, there was a sumo wrestling date, they did like choreographed dance, they had rap battles, and then there was the sex education part.
That was great.
That was awesome. So basically all the guys had to go in front of a class of, I don't even know, they kind of look like fourth graders maybe.
Yeah, probably like fourth graders.
It was explaining what sex was, like giving a sex education, and they were just kind of put on the spot. So that's a little challenging. Ben Higgins kind of knocked it out of the park, which he happened to be a sex ed minor while he was studying in college, because he originally wanted to teach sex ed in school, which is so very specific and kind of weird, but I guess it worked really well for this specific date, which also goes to show that the producers do some real FBI stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Come up with all these things, but also all the kids there were actors, thank God, because if that had to be in front of an actual fourth grade class, half of them probably would have like caused some real trauma to these kids.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty funny that they mentioned like, oh yeah, by the way, these are kid actors that were paid, or not paid, but hired to ask them all of like the really obvious questions, like what are condoms, or like what's a boner? And it's like seeing the reactions on the guys' faces when the kids ask the questions. That's just hilarious. We said it last week and we'll say it again. The dates in older Bachelor seasons are so much better than now.
Right. I agree. Like, I think her dates were pretty good. I liked her dates more than I think most, because the creativity behind them were amazing.
Yeah.
Compared to like, let's go jump off this building, or let's go swim with sharks, or let's go do this. It was like there was a lot of creativity behind a lot of these dates, which made them a lot more intriguing, I think. It's not like we're trying to watch Fear Factor, right? And watching someone go parachuting isn't really going to tell you too much about their character, besides if maybe that they're brave or courageous. It doesn't really tell you about how they are with kids, or how they are with this, or how do they view the other people that they're contesting against. Which, talking about people not liking other people in the house, after one of the rap battles that was towards like the later end of the season, there happened to be someone behind backstage that no one was expecting to be there. And do you remember who that was?
Nick.
Good old Nick. So,
all right. So I've got some notes on this kid. So this is where the season, the season was probably pretty interesting, but I think they said that he showed up at either week 4 or 5.
Yes.
So I have written down Nick, and then the next line down says, "This is so awkward," because that scene where Nick walks in the room and all of the dudes are sitting and standing around one couch, and Nick like tries to sit down, but then is like, I'm gonna just go over here, and like sits down on the couch by himself and is just facing the group. I was like, God.
Yes. So the big reason why the guys hate Nick so much. So to give a little background, Nick had been messaging Kaitlyn before the show, before she was on the show, anything. And I guess they had they had been flirting a little bit. There's a little bit of chemistry, but they had never met in person. And so when Kaitlyn walked backstage, because at the rap battle, because there was so much buzz going on back there, she ran into Nick and was like, what are you doing here? Like, this was the first time that she met him in person. And that's when around that time, it might have been after that she asked him if he wanted to be on the show. And so she had already started some pretty deep relationships, especially with this one guy named Shawn, which will come up a lot more later. But yeah, a lot of guys were like, there was one guy specifically that was like, I'm not worried about his intentions. It's not that I don't trust him. It's more of, I don't know your intentions and I don't know if I trust you, to Kaitlyn, which is pretty harsh, but at the same time, it's kind of understandable. Like,
yeah, that was Ian. Ian literally sat her down and was like, listen, I am not worried about Nick at all. I think you are just here because you want to make out with a bunch. He literally said, I think you want to make out with a bunch of guys and get famous. And I don't think you're here to find love. I just think you're here to play games. I was like, damn, dude. Like, you knew before he was going into that conversation that he already had his mind set on leaving. But damn, dude, like, that took some balls. Like, that's the ballsiest thing I've seen thus far. Like,
yeah, and no offense to Ian, but he seems like one of the guys from many of the other episodes where it's like you don't really see him for like the last 2 episodes, and then all of a sudden,
no screen time,
and you're like, wait, but like, who are you?
Like, wait, didn't you get voted off week 1?
Right, exactly. But and then I think Shawn brought up a really good point, and it's like, why are you bringing someone else in here? Are you not confident with what you already have? Which is a good point to make. But at the same time, like, the heart wants what the heart wants, and wouldn't it be a lot more rewarding to have found that love with Kaitlyn after she kind of vetted out a previous, like, thing, I guess, to kind of get it off her chest or out of her system, or like what have you. Like, you don't want her living in the land of like what ifs and so on and so forth. So in the end, I think it was good for her to bring him on the season. I understand why the guys were pissed. Like, all their feelings were totally valid. I would 100% feel the same way. But yeah, so Nick is there. Nick's straight off a troublemaker. I don't think that he's intending on being a troublemaker. I don't think he's really been starting fights with the guys. I think he's more of just kind of keeping to himself. But it's just so obvious that Kaitlyn is so for him that the guys are having a hard time dealing with it.
Yeah.
About Nick more. How about Clint and JJ?
Okay, I have to talk about these guys.
Yeah.
So I think Clint and JJ both acknowledge the fact that, like, they're probably not going to get with her. So they were just like, fuck it, let's just have a really good time until she votes us off the show. And they just but they got kind of borderline weird with it.
Yes, when they were like, I think they took a snip of where they were both kind of standing by themselves out by the pool, and they were talking about like bananas.
Yeah, but they were also like standing alarmingly like close to each other, and I was like, is something going on here?
And they were like, their stances were like alpha. Like, it was weird. It was like the two of them, sure, they were friends, but I felt like it was a continuous battle of like putting their dick on the table and figuring.
Oh yeah, it was definitely a dick measuring contest.
Yeah, like their egos were so intense. But basically, Clint and JJ were like kind of off, always doing their own thing, and it was just so weird. And at one point, I think the guys all kind of turned on Clint, like they didn't trust Clint. And this was very interesting to watch compared to other seasons of Bachelor Nation, where everyone in the house is like, oh, look out for that one person. That one person's bad, like telling the Bachelor or the Bachelorette, hey, like, you shouldn't trust this guy. And like, she even said it. She's like, if 13 out of the 15 guys are telling me that you're a problem, then I'm going to go with my gut and assume that you're a problem. And it's like in every other season of The Bachelor, Bachelorette, it would be 13 out of 15 people think that you're a problem. I don't care what they think. Let's go talk for 30 minutes and then I'm going to give you a rose. Like that's like
Yeah.
kind of how it always has been going like the last few seasons, which I understand that everybody has their own journey, but you kind of got to trust the people that spend day in and day out with that person. So she basically told Clint, like, I don't know if I trust you. And he said something along the lines of like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And she's like, great, let's go. You're saying goodbye.
Yeah. Good on Kaitlyn for like, as soon as Ian said the same thing, she was like, well, good, because you're gone anyway. Like it just makes me so realize like how bad Peter was at sending people away that caused drama. Like when that should happen to Peter, he'd be like, oh my God, I'm so stressed. I don't know what to do. But Kayla's just like, bye, bitch. Like,
bye. Yeah, it's kind of funny because looking back at Peter's season and now that he's with Kelly, I keep thinking about the time that he sent Kelly home. And it was that 3-on-1 date with Hannah Ann. Was it Victoria S or Victoria P? Who was the
Victoria
it's always
P.
Yes, okay, Victoria. Yeah. The one that you know who we're talking about when we say Victoria. And then Kelly. And it's like, here's Victoria being Victoria. And so they're walking Peter's walking Victoria to the car, and you think like, okay, great, Peter's finally going to send Victoria home. Like he's been rewarding her bad behavior, like day after day. It's getting annoying. Like you got to get to a limit. And he walks her to the car. We're like, yes, finally. I know that everyone in America was like, yes, finally. And he's like, okay, so here's your rose. And then sends her on her way. And then he goes to Hannah Ann, who's already crying. Like he hasn't even said anything. And she's like, I think she starts bawling after he gives her the rose, which was just weird to watch in general. But it's like, Hannah Ann really? And like sent Kelly home. And it's like, Peter was the worst at rewarding bad behavior and like listening to other people.
Yes, agreed.
He was just like, I think starstruck by beauty the entire time and couldn't quite get over that hump. But enough of Peter for now. So yeah, basically Kaitlyn pulls Clint and's like, okay, you're going home then. Let's go say goodbye to everybody. And pulls him in front of the group and says, Clint's like, okay, well, I'm going home. And JJ's like, I think you should apologize for wasting all of our time or wasting Kaitlyn's time and all this stuff. Like, what?
I was like, bro, are you serious right now?
I was like, that was at that point, if I saw that and I was a bachelorette and I was like, oh, okay, so you're going with him though, right? Like
I was expecting her to say that.
Right? And it was weird because they started talking and Clint was like, no, bro, like, I don't want to talk to you. Like, don't even get in my face. Like, I'm done with you. Like, all this stuff. And Clint JJ started crying.
I found that a little weird.
It was a little weird. The weirder part, though, was when he walked over to the side and slapped himself in the face. Like a cut it out of it moment. He was like crying, slapped himself, stopped crying, walked back into the room. And I'm like, what is happening?
Something tells me that JJ was feeling a little something towards Clint.
Right. So weird.
Very odd interaction there.
Very
you can even tell on some of the guys' faces, like when JJ like backstabbed Clint, they were like, huh?
Yeah. And they were all like, okay, well, we don't trust you either. I'm like, you to back us up didn't make us like you anymore. It just makes us hate you more. Which
exactly.
Totally understand.
I forget who said it, but he was like, damn, man, if you're going to be an asshole, be an asshole. But if you're going to be an asshole and then stab your friend in the back, like, who are you, dude? You're a piece of shit.
Yes. Like, what?
So Nick shows up, and Kaitlyn takes, she makes a controversial decision by inviting Nick back to her hotel room. And can I just say, I'm an adult. I'm a mature person, kind of. But for a TV show on ABC, which is supposed to be like a family network, they let the microphones play out a little too long in that scene.
I agree. So yeah,
I was like, what?
they went back on their date. So Kaitlyn one broke the rules by letting Nick join the season halfway in, and then she broke the rules again for Nick by having sex with him before Fantasy Suite. So, like Logan just said, they went back to their hotel. They started kissing. They made a decision to go in the room and shut the door, but they didn't turn off the mics. So you heard a lot of stuff, and I heard a lot of moaning from Kaitlyn, and it was quite weird to listen to, especially now that she's like with Jason in real life, like 5 years later. It's like, damn, that's really tough to watch.
And I was just like, they could have cut that scene. Was legit like 20, 30, maybe even close to 45 seconds long of just the shot of the door and her just moaning. I was like, this is a TV show on a family network. What is going on right now?
Right.
I can't believe they let that air for so long.
Yes, it was very, very interesting. But
yes, they're the dumbasses that left their hot mics on, and you just hear, unless it was fake I don't know.
I doubt it.
I doubt it was fake.
I doubt it was fake too.
My note says for that scene, I just said, damn, claps cheeks after being there for less of a week.
Yep, he's totally in there. But so Shawn, I think it was Shawn and Jared were talking, and they were like, I really hope this date's going bad.
Yeah.
Both hated Nick, and then it like goes back to Kaitlyn moaning or something, and I'm like, this is so not great.
No.
So anyways, as Nick doesn't come back that night, the guys I'm sure are already kind of like, what the heck? I don't know if they really know if he's there or not, because I don't really know what the sleeping arrangements was while they were in Ireland. But in the morning, Nick is just like, yeah, it was good. I think he mentioned that they went back to her hotel room. He didn't, I feel like he kind of like implied that they had sex, but didn't straight up say like they had done anything. And so the first guy, other than Nick, obviously, that finds out about Kaitlyn sleeping with Nick is Shawn, because Kaitlyn pulls Shawn aside and explains to him what happens, and she feels like she needs to because of how far her relationship is with Shawn.
And I put for a note for here, I say respect to Shawn for keeping it real and holding his ground.
Yeah, Shawn handled the whole thing super maturely.
Oh yeah, 100%. He might have been the most mature guy there.
Yes.
Which is why, he made it so far.
Right.
To the end. I mean, he proposed and she accepted. We know that's no longer the case, but yeah, like the whole time I was like, ever since they showed him for the first time, I was like, I'm rooting for this guy. Like, this guy seems mature. He knows what he wants. He's not here to fuck around. He's here to win her heart. And I don't blame him for getting so worked up about Nick. I really enjoyed the scene with the two of them, like in the room, where Nick was like, let's try to be man to man. And Shawn was like, fuck man to man. You came in here, broke the rules of the show, and had a previous. That's why people were so up in arms about Kelly, because Peter and Kelly had a little bit of an intimate connection, or not intimate, but they had met prior to the show's taping.
Right.
So that's why people were enraged about Kelly having an advantage. Same deal here. This dude had a total advantage.
Right.
He made it to the last fucking deal.
Right. He was one of the engagements, but
that'd be such a punch in the face to somebody there day one, knowing that, wow, I just got beat by a dude that DM'd her a couple times.
Right. Exactly. It's frustrating, but again, like there's connections in weird places, and as like she kind of said, so sorry, I got alarms for all types of things, but so I think during that rose ceremony, right after she told Shawn, she was giving a rose to Shawn, and Shawn said, actually, can we talk for a second? And obviously I haven't seen the season, so when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, Shawn's going to go home. I'm like, she's going to lose the best guy on the show because of this. Like, that's going to suck so bad. And they're talking through it, and I think at one point she mentioned to him, which had to be a punch in the gut, of, I made a mistake by telling you too soon that you were the one, or that I was falling for you, or something like that. And she's like, I'm here and I'm exploring more, like multiple relationships. She's like, you just have to trust me. And
yeah, I was, again, we said this at the top of the episode. Kaitlyn handled all of her situations pretty maturely. So for her to say that to him, I was like, wow, like she's got some balls too. She's really not fucking around either. Like that's the moment where I was like, okay, this chick has good intentions. If you tell someone that, then that props to her for saying that to him.
Right. Like there was no, like, I hate to keep going back to Peter's season. It was just that much of a shit show, in my opinion. But if anyone upset at Peter, it was like he had the same statement, like the same disclaimer statement of, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to hurt you. Like, I'm not a perfect human, blah, 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 blah. Like the same phrase every time. And with Kaitlyn, it was like when someone came to her with something that they had to complain about or frustrated with, like she actually was listening to them, and she just spoke her mind on how she felt. Like if she didn't agree, then she didn't agree, and she said why. And if she did agree, she would apologize and would it kind of explain how she was going to do better. And just like the way that she phrased a lot of her statements was so elegant that it just made you want to trust her.
Yeah.
Like she is so well spoken, which is also kind of crazy because, like, did you know that she's Canadian? Nothing against saying that Canadians aren't well spoken, but
I didn't know that. No.
She is a Canadian and she is awesome. But yes, so there is all of that. Shawn basically then makes the decision to trust Kaitlyn, and then goes back, accepts her rose, moves on. Basically jumping all the way to the end, right before the end, Chris Harrison has a FaceTime call, I think, with Shawn before or after his proposal to kind of talk about some love letters that Shawn wrote and was about to email to Kaitlyn. They made it sound like he was about to read the love letters, but I don't think they read any of them. I think they just talked about how they existed.
Yeah. I thought that was such a weird addition to the episode. I was like, why do we need this dude to read his creepy emails to her?
Right. I think it was another, like, blah, like a way to make because again, like with coronavirus and everything going on, Bachelor's greatest hits ever, greatest seasons ever, whatever, probably was never thought of before or even considered for being a season. It is not, I wouldn't say it's thrown together. They've done a really great job of putting a full season of drama in 3 hours, especially while Chris Harrison is just chilling in his office at home and his son is
his
cameraman. Right. So it is a little challenging, and I'm sure a lot of the producers are freaking out, and it's like, why would anyone want to watch this? Especially if you've been with Bachelor Nation for a long time, like you're just going to find something else to watch. So I think they had to put some stuff in there to keep the attention of the people that have been around forever.
Like the reunions with couples and the FaceTimes with like Peter and Kaleigh, like shit like that. Definitely like a segment to make sure, like, oh shit, we're at 2 hours and 40 minutes. Like, oh, let's throw 10 minutes of Nick reading creepy emails. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, okay, perfect. Like that's what it was.
Right. So
Um,
was that Nick went to propose to Kaitlyn. It was very heartfelt. It was very sweet, but she turned him down. And again, like I think we talked about this last week with I can't remember whose season that they talked about last week. But if it's like you're breaking up with someone because they're just not the one, what have you, don't keep telling them that you love them or care a lot or anything like that. It just makes it confusing to that person. And Nick kind of made that statement of like, no, you don't, because if you did, you'd be picking me. And it's like you're not listening to the words that you're saying. So yeah.
No, when she was breaking up with him and he was like just like okay. At first I was like, come on, man. But then I was like, if I was in his shoes, I would be saying the same thing.
Right.
Like, I don't like she's sitting there trying to explain herself to him and he's just like, I don't need to hear this. You just told me that you're choosing another guy. Just walk me to the truck. Just kick me off the show.
Right.
You know, like, so I don't blame him for getting upset. I mean, even though he did get shoehorned in the middle of the season, he still made it to the very end. I mean, he still probably really did genuinely have feelings for her. So, yeah, I mean, rip to Nick, but
yeah,
I thought he was going to win it for a second, but no, Shawn's the man. Shawn, they didn't show it, I don't think, but Shawn proposed.
Yeah, we never saw Shawn's proposal. I guess they dated for 3 years then, or I guess were engaged for 3 years and then broke up.
Yeah, they said that there was some things that they just couldn't get over. So who knows what those things were? They didn't really say, but
right. Everything post Shawn, I don't know if Shawn was just like. So remember when we talked before that like all the rules of ABC and when you sign, like you're basically ABC
you're basically owned.
They own you for about 5 years, which her season was about 5 years ago. So I think now that it's at the end, Shawn's like, I don't want any part of this. I have a feeling that him and Kaitlyn probably ended on the wrong note or something. They want to tell you that's cordial, but who knows how much it actually is. So I'm assuming that like when he's like, okay, my 5 years is up, like, don't talk to me anymore. Like, I'm done. Don't. So like when the show probably tried to reach out to him, he's probably like, nope. This is assumptions. I don't know if any of this is true, but
I was gonna say there's a reason there's definitely a reason we didn't see him.
Yes.
Like and you would have thought they would have FaceTimed him too.
Right. Just to see where he was at. But yeah, that was basically her season in a nutshell. There was a few other guests that came on. Hannah Ann and Maddie joined the show to kind of talk about how they feel for Peter now that it's all over and him with Kaleigh and stuff like that, and their relationship with each other, like Hannah Ann and Maddie's relationship. And I didn't expect anything less, but just super positive words came from both of them.
I noticed that Hannah Ann looked just real salty. Like she was like smiling so big the whole time. I almost thought it was a fake smile because she was just like the whole time. And I was like, first of all, I realized, damn, Hannah Ann is fucking gorgeous. Yeah. She's so pretty. But then I was just like, I don't know. I feel like I feel like they gave their TV answer. Like obviously Maddie and Hannah Ann and probably all the girls are like, of course he went back to Kaleigh.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that Maddie and Hannah Ann are friends. I mean, I see them interacting on TikTok and social media, and I think a lot of the girls from this season are pretty close. I follow a lot of them still on Instagram, and it looks like they take like trips with each other a lot, and it looks like a lot of the girls got really close through the shitty season that we got.
Yes. There was I think one of them posted, I think it was Maddie posted a TikTok of like a bunch of the girls together. I think there was like 4 of them or 5 of them doing like a dance or something. And someone commented on the TikTok and said, "Where's Kelly?" And Maddie responded to it and said, "With our ex-boyfriend." And I was like, oh. So like, as much as like you fully want to believe like, yeah, they're totally cool with it and stuff, like I'm sure there's a lot of pain still in there somewhere. I mean, it's a breakup and it is hard to see and hard to watch and comprehend, but there was that. Another snip was of Kaitlyn and Jason. So Jason was from Hannah B's season. I think he made it to hometowns or right before hometowns, and he was sent home. I loved Jason on her season. I wanted her to be with Jason so bad. And we were all wanting him to be the next Bachelor, but it didn't happen. And I think it was because his feelings are super like wrapped around the Bachelorette of that season. So I think it was just going to be too hard for him to just kind of move on and do the experience again, which is understandable. But
so him and Kaitlyn are just dating, right? Like they're not married.
Nope, they're just dating. So they live in Nashville, which is actually where Ashley I and Jared live also. Interesting. And Jared was on Kaitlyn's season. I've actually met Ashley I and Jared before. I saw them outside the bar in Nashville.
Yeah, I think you brought that up a couple episodes ago.
Yeah, so they gave a snip of the 2 of them, and I guess Ashley I and Jared were also FaceTimed in on the show yesterday too, and they just kind of gave a little update about life and so on and so forth. But so Kaitlyn and Jason now. So Jason was on Kaitlyn's podcast. I guess like there was chemistry as soon, but they didn't really recognize it. I guess Jason might have recognized it quicker because he told one of his friends like the podcast was good. He met his future wife was the joke that he made. And Kaitlyn said that she didn't really realize that they had so much chemistry until actually listening to the show. Like one of her friends said, "Oh, the show was good, but like, did you hear the chemistry between you and Jason?" kind of thing. And it made her kind of reevaluate everything that was going on. And this was soon after her and Shawn had broke up. So I'm sure a lot of those types of feelings and vulnerability wasn't really on her radar. But I guess they went out on a few dates and now they live together in Nashville. They have 2 golden retrievers that they have rescued from a organization that like rescues dogs from like foreign countries and stuff like that. So they have 2 golden retrievers. One's name is Ramen and the other one is Pinot G. So
love those names.
I know they have their own Instagram too, so you should totally follow it. It's so cute.
I'm definitely gonna check that out after this.
Yeah, so it was cute because when they were talking, they're like, "Yes, we live here together in this house, and we have our 2 beautiful golden retrievers." Like when Jason was talking, I was like, "Children should go there." But
yes, I thought that children was going to go there, but then like I also noticed like right above Jason's right shoulder was like a picture of them 2 with their golden retrievers, and I was like, "Oh, there they are."
Yes, they're definitely the perfect example of early on couples that get dogs as their responsibility to kind of fill in that gap of having children, I guess, to kind of figure out if they can do the parenting thing, even though dogs and babies, I don't think are all that much similar. But
right.
So, yes, and they were talking about all this stuff, and from the previews, I thought that Jason was going to propose to Kaitlyn on the show, and I was like so ready. I thought it was going to happen. Like I said before, like I love Kaitlyn. I love Kaitlyn. I love Jason. I want them to be together, and I want them to have babies like tomorrow. Like I love them. So I thought that he was finally popping the question. And it wasn't, I guess he had his AirPods in his pocket and she freaked out because she thought it was a ring, like a ring box. But the big proposal that was of last night was Chris Harrison asking Kaitlyn to be on Dancing with the Stars, which is interesting. I'm excited for that. Hannah B was on last season's Dancing with the Stars and she won the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it shows you the power of Bachelor Nation when it comes to other ABC shows. So that's so exciting. A little back history on Kaitlyn is she went to college for dancing or tried to go to college for dancing. I don't know if she completed a degree. She has a passion for it. She applied for Dancing with the Stars soon after her season of The Bachelorette and she got turned down. So her being invited on is like a dream come true for her. So super freaking out. Adorable.
They should have an all previous Bachelor characters on Dancing with the Stars, like a theme or something. Like I think they've done themes in the past where they do like all athletes or all TV stars. They should do like all Bachelor personalities.
Ooh, that's really fun to watch.
Yeah, including Chris Harrison. We need him dancing.
We need Chris Harrison just doing the whole thing.
You know what I realized too? This could be one of our closing thoughts for all episodes, but Chris Harrison must be protected at all costs.
Always.
He's the best.
Is
like
the angel of the show.
I want to hang with this dude so bad.
So in Bachelors in Paradise, there's I think he had his own season where I was on a previous season, or I could completely be in the wrong on this, but there's a guy named Wells that's the bartender. And so he's like giving dating advice while making drinks. And I think they just need to move him out and put Chris Harrison as being the bartender during Bachelors in Paradise, because that would be phenomenal. But absolutely love Chris Harrison. After the show was over, I hopped on Instagram and Kaitlyn and Jason did a little live on their Instagram, and it was Kaitlyn pretty drunk, just talking about how appreciative she was. And I'm so excited. It's going to be such a good season. Such a good season.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I really enjoyed last night's recap. I guess that's maybe what they're going to do. I wonder if they're going to maybe sprinkle in some Paradise seasons in there every once in a while instead of just going Bachelor, Bachelorette, Bachelor, Bachelorette. It'd be cool if they sprinkled a couple bonus seasons. Question for you, do you think they'll recap Peter's season?
I hope not.
I don't think so. Maybe just because it's so recent. Maybe they're trying to go back and highlight some of the older seasons for people like us that like didn't see them when they were live and would have never known unless we just researched it or like looked at it on social media.
Yes.
So I don't think Peter's going to get a recap. And if he does, he's the last one because he was so recent.
I think the most recent, this is just a theory and a guess, I think the most recent season of The Bachelor, Bachelorette that's going to be premiered during this season that they're doing right now is going to be Colton's season. That would be my assumption, or my guess, is that he will be the newest or most recent kind of show to recap, just because they have him jumping the fence and so on and so forth. There was a lot of pretty iconic stuff that happened during his season too. But next week, we're recapping Ben Higgins' season, which we talked about him a little bit during this episode since he was on Kaitlyn's season of The Bachelorette. But yeah, I'm excited. Clearly, he didn't end up forever with whomever he takes a proposal to, but I'm excited to see what they do.
As am I.
All right.
I am excited as well. Well, great recap for episode 2 of Bachelor GOAT. Episode 10 of Binging Batch has concluded. Episode 10. Wow. We've made it 10 weeks. It's crazy. And that was episode 124 of the Binge Boys. Be sure to check us out on Instagram, Kale's Tales, Logan Lewis 96, Binge Boys podcast. Check out the What Are We podcast that just launched over the past couple of weeks. Myself and Lindsay host it. We just interviewed Alea from The Bachelor. We're able to get her on and talk to her about dating. She was very kind and had a lot to say, so check that out. On that podcast and this podcast, leave a rating and review. It helps us figure out what works and what doesn't. We've got 2 podcasts coming down the line, coming soon. Mind Your Banters, hosted by Kaleigh herself and her boyfriend, Nathan, right?
Yes, Nathan and I. I'm super excited for that one.
So we'll plug all that stuff on the socials when that comes nearer, as well as another one hosted by myself. Whatever I Want is the title, and it is a Joe Rogan-y style where each episode is centered around a person in my life that I find interesting. So we sit down, just talk. It's less of an interview and more of just like a casual conversation. And we just get to know each other better and build. It's meant to like build on better relationships.
That's my
There he
co-host.
is.
That's the co-host.
That's her co-host.
You want to wave?
Oh, hello.
So we're excited about what?
He's making a sandwich.
That's
I
all
don't blame him.
we don't have.
We're great. Anyways, go on.
So, yes, so check those shows out. We'll plug them when they're soon to come. So make sure you're subscribing on YouTube as well. Helps us out a lot. Kaleigh, I think without further ado, that might be it for this week, unless you've got any closing thoughts.
No, I think that's it. If you want, make Benji play the tunes.
Let's game, gamers.
Benji will play. Nathan makes his sandwich.
What are you looking at? Oh, you're looking at the video.
Well, there it is. Thanks, Benji. Thank you, Kaleigh.
Thanks, y'all. Talk to you next week.
Bye.